students, these are your notes for lesson 2.3, reflections. So a reflection is a flip or a transformation in which the figure is reflected in a line called the line of reflection. So a line of reflection is a little bit like a mirror. And when you look at the figure and its image, it sort of looks like the figure is looking into the mirror. So when we look at figure A, we can see that both the blue shape and the red shape are the same distance from the line at this point, and they're the same distance from the line of reflection at this point as well. And if we measured it from the back two angles, we would find that they're the same distance as well. So this is what a reflection looks like. Each point on the figure is reflected across that line of reflection that looks like a mirror. When we look at the second example, we see that this point here is very close to the line of reflection here, but it's really far from the line of reflection over here. This is not a reflection. This looks more like a translation or a slide. So that brings us to our key idea, which is that to reflect a figure in the x-axis or across the x-axis, we'll take the opposite of the y-coordinate. And to reflect a figure in the y-axis or across the y-axis, we'll take the opposite of the x-coordinate. So if I look at these figures to the right of this key idea, the red triangle is my original figure. And the blue triangle, A prime, B prime, C prime, is that triangle reflected in the x-axis. So if I look at A and A prime right here, they have the same x coordinate. What's different is that they have the opposite y coordinates. When we're reflecting across the x-axis, what we need to change is the y coordinate. On the other hand, when I look at my original figure, the red figure, and I look at the green figure, I see that the green figure is a reflection in the y-axis. So if I look at 2 points like B and B prime, I can see that they are the same distance from the y-axis. And I can see that if I look at the coordinates of B, let's see, the coordinates of B are -4, 4. The coordinates of B prime are 4, 4. So the y coordinate stayed the same. It was the x coordinate that changed. So sometimes that's a little bit counterintuitive for people, that when we're reflecting across the x-axis, it's the y coordinate that changes. When we reflect across the y-axis, it's the x coordinate that changes. So next, we're going to go ahead and practice reflecting a figure in the x-axis. So I'm going to go ahead and draw my original figure in red. The vertices of this triangle are -1, 1, and B is at -1, 3. You should be drawing these two. And C is at 5, 3. So I have A, B, and C. And I'm going to go ahead and connect those lines to make my triangle. Now, I'm going to reflect this figure in the x-axis. So I'm going to use green for my image. So if I take A and reflect it over the x-axis, it's going to be right here, right? I'm going to stay at an x coordinate of -1, but instead of 1, my y coordinate will be -1. So this is A prime, and I'm going to go ahead and write that down over here too. A prime, the coordinate, is -1, -1. Okay, let's do B prime next. So here's B up here at 1, 3. B prime is going to be, sorry, not at 1, 3, negative 1, 3 is B. And B prime is going to be at negative 1, negative 3. So here's B prime right here at negative 1, negative 3. And then C prime, I have right up here at 5, 3. And my image will be at 5, negative 3. So here's C prime at 5, negative 3. So we can see that when we reflect across the x-axis, all of our x coordinates stayed the same. It was the y coordinates that flipped. Instead of positive 1, we had negative 1. Instead of positive 3, negative 3, and another positive 3, negative 3. So our y coordinates were the opposite. All right, next we're going to practice reflecting a figure in the y-axis. So we have this quadrilateral PQRS. Let's go ahead and draw that first. So P is at negative 2, 5. So this is P right here. Q is at negative 1, negative 1. So this is Q. R is at negative 4, 2. So here's R. And S is at negative 4, 4. Okay, so we'll go ahead and connect to create this quadrilateral. And then we're going to go ahead and reflect each of these points in the y-axis. So P, instead of being at negative 2, 5, will be at positive 2, 5. That's P prime. So P prime is at 2, 5. Q prime will be at 1, negative 1. So instead of Q was at negative 1, negative 1, Q prime is at 1, negative 1. R prime will be at 4, 2 instead of negative 4, 2. So R prime is at 4, 2. And S prime is at 4, 4. S prime. This one was R prime. S prime is at 4, 4. Okay, so when we connect these dots, we see that our two shapes are congruent, as close as they can be with the sketch that we drew, and that every point on P prime is exactly across the y-axis from the point on the original figure. Okay, so go ahead and try the on your own. Don't forget to look back at your notes if you need them. Good luck.